So joining me today, I've got a gentleman who's been in the software development industry for quite a while now. He's somebody who I've been connected to and followed on LinkedIn for a while too, and somebody who I was keen to get on the podcast because their content is really great. There's a lot of positivity there. There's a lot of value being shared with management, building teams, and fostering positive relationships as well. So I'm really delighted to introduce Keith as my guest today. So thank you for coming along, Keith.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, and really appreciate you coming down from Newcastle. The not too long a journey to Middlesbrough.
No, not at all. Just a straight road, really,
Yeah.
until I get here, and then I get lost. But no, my pleasure, Kasim. Thank you.
Brilliant. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself then, Keith? Just like a short intro to yourself.
So thanks, Kasim. So yes, my name's Keith. I'm a software engineer, a software development manager currently for AO. Been in the industry for just over 30 years now. What I would say is, you have individuals have squiggly careers. I have a very straight career, but a squiggly path within that. My first company was Sage, just this small northeast company. Obviously, at the time when I started, but within that, the 29 and a half years that I was there, really had an opportunity to learn so many things, work with so many people, so many domains, and yes, I actually started on the telephone support, in 1991, so as a teenager. But yeah, so software engineering, software development manager at AO. And obviously, as you know, I'm just serving out my notice there, so not to break any news just yet. Obviously, look forward to sharing more about my new role when that's possible.
Yeah, great. And so typically I like to ask the software development manager guests that I have regarding how they started off in software development, where the interest came from. So what was your path? Was it you sort of fell into it whilst you were working at Sage, or did you have an interest from a young age in software development?
So I was what you would class a bedroom coder, bedroom programmer. Started many years ago with a VIC-20, Commodore VIC-20, then onto a Spectrum, typing up the listings. The ability to create something from nothing really just sort of attracted to me to that. And that's really where I started with regards to gaming. I went into school, and if I'm honest, I never really considered a role in technology. I didn't understand really there was an opportunity to have a career, because what I was doing at school was biology. I'd gotten, for me, which was a massive thing. I came first in the mock exams for biology, and that was against, at the time, what I classed as all the academics. It was like, wow, this is amazing. The reality was that when it came to the exams, I didn't perform as I did in the mocks for many reasons. And what I did, I then looked back at the other subjects that actually was interested in and did particularly well in, which were history and computer studies. So at the time, as a 16-year-old, I couldn't see a role or a job in history. So I went, computers. This is interesting. I quite enjoy this. And I then started on a YTS. So coming out of school, straight into learning and the more practical approach to things, which is how I like to do things. I learn from doing and always have done and continue to do that in my career. So that gave me, again, just the bug, as it were. Sage was actually my programming career started at a company on Scotts Road in Newcastle called Key Computer Services. Actually, as a junior programmer, so that was coming out of the YTS. Really, really excited. 8 months down the line, being the last one in, I was the first one out because there was some redundancies. And I really just spent a few months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And there was this company in the Northeast. My friend, who I was on a YTS, had already gone there, seemed to be doing really, really well. Actually applied for Sage, it would have been a total of 3 times. Third time lucky, as they say. But it was for telephone support. And at the time, it was just about being around those people, being in that environment. And little did I know, obviously, what I know now. It's not where it's not where you start. It's, you know, you have the ability to work towards it. So I started supporting accounts and payroll and contact management on the phone, speaking to our customers, all of which is super valuable in understanding, you know, the for want of a better word, the pain that customers or suppliers actually feel with software. So really, really fortunate to build that experience of connection from the start. But engineering was my passion, and that was what I would do in between calls, at the weekend, in the evenings. And actually I built a role for myself within what was called research and development at the time. And it was localizing an American piece of contact management software called Telemagic. And nobody will remember it. I do massively. But that then set me on a journey over 29 and a half, well, actually I was on support for 3 years, over, 27 and a half years of working in different domains, somewhat different technology stacks, but with different people, different teams, different problems. And I just kept learning. I just kept one foot in front of the other, keep stepping out of my comfort zone. And as I left Sage, I was a software engineering team lead, working on a greenfield US payroll product on the Salesforce platform on a globally distributed team, which was, I couldn't have foreseen when I started my career all of those years ago. Because believe it or not, I was, and I'm quite introverted now, but I was incredibly shy. So being on the telephone worked massively for me, not having to really deal with people, but being in that position, just realizing through that journey that it's less about me and it's more about other people. And that allows me to be here, to do what I do, to share. And you touched about content on LinkedIn. It's just about giving back. I'm getting to a point where I just want to do that. Long story short, was made redundant from Sage. Well, my role, let's be clear, my role was made redundant at Sage. And again, learned the value of taking control. Do control what we can, and that was just a massive decision. Let's be clear, after 29 and a half, I was absolutely gutted that I never made it to 30, I'll be honest. I just thought, okay, can you do this, Keith? Are these skills that you think that you've got, do the work in actually what is the real world? Because I've been in one company for so long. Yeah. And thankfully, I can, and I did. I went to Accenture as a technology delivery lead. And again, wow, and it's interesting. I am genuinely grateful for all of the companies that I've worked for and all of the positions that I've been in, and complimentary about them, even though I've left, you know, because I've learned so much. I learned so much about myself, so much about delivery, so much about, you know, those transferable skills working at Accenture. But there was, again, just something missing. You know, when I reflect on it, it was just about working with teams and with people. Again, we try different things. You know, I've worked in one environment for 29 and a half years. Let's try different things. You know, and I moved to AO. Again, incredible company doing some fantastic things. My role there really was to come in, and somewhat I was asked to put an arm around the department, help build a leadership capability, support the leaders, and obviously support delivery as well, because the organisation had gone through a tough time with regards to restructure. Incredible people doing an incredible job, just needed that extra bit of support. Managed to do that, but one thing that I missed was actually working in an office and working with people, because it was fully remote. That's why I took the decision to start to look for roles back in the Northeast. So that's effectively where I am. So very straight line in terms of a career. Senior engineer to then Scrum Master, then team lead, engineering lead, delivery lead, engineering manager, but very squiggly on the way. You know, as you know, I've done UX, I've done testing, I've done all of which I am super grateful for, because it gives me that insight into how people work, and for me, what's important when we're delivering software or building teams.
Yeah, great. No, it's a great history you've got, and I want to just touch a little bit on Sage. So when you first joined them a long while back, how big was the company at the time?
Now you're asking. Probably, I would say, no more than 200 people. I joined. They had an office in Gosforth. They had one building in Gosforth. And the whole of the company was in there. There was admin, support, development, sales, and everything. So yeah, it had acquired some companies. So it'd been going for about 10 years when I joined.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not this multinational, global, amazing green machine that it is now.
Yeah. And because I'd say it's quite uncommon for someone to stay at a company for the length of time you did. I mean, typically, we're here in the market where typically a developer might only be at a company for 2 or 3 years before they move on to pastures new, and there's obviously a lot of reasons to that.
Yeah.
But with Sage, do you feel like you got in at a great time where they were going through this period of growth, and then was there always opportunities to learn and progress that then that sort of resulted in you then staying there for that amount of time?
Absolutely. So timing is everything, but you need to put in the effort. You need to. For me, it was a recognition. Even back then, there was nobody really stopping me determining my future. You know, I had a role to do, whether it be on the phones or engineering. But you know, what one piece of advice, you know, which I used myself for anybody starting out in the career, whilst you've got the time and the energy, is to actually put in the work, the graft, as it were, because it does pay dividends. You know, you can, for me, the more things you do, the more experiences, not experience, and this is one thing that I like to differentiate, is the experiences that I've had allow me to learn more. So the more things I've done and getting wrong, the more people that I've worked with and more teams, the more domains, and you could say I went through many years at Sage till I found what actually gets me up in the morning, and that was, and I know the point in time it was I was frustrated as a senior engineer, just thinking there's got to be another way of delivering this software, and that's where I trained to become a Scrum Master, and that was just whilst I wasn't an expert. Let's be clear, you're not an expert by becoming a certified Scrum Master. It gives you the tools, techniques to start to work with people and try different things and experiment. And it was a light bulb moment for me. That's the point where I genuinely switched from this is not about me, it's about us and how we deliver. And then that was over then I had a real why, and then my direction obviously changed from there.
Yeah.
But yes, let's be clear. Like any company or any role, it wasn't always sunshine and roses, for want of a better word. But the challenge has to be there.
Yeah.
And if you keep stepping out of your comfort zone, and again, one thing that I think is incredibly important for anybody within any role or with any organization, become really, really good at what your role is. You can't have an eye on a side route or the next route up, but I can absolutely guarantee if you're nailing your role now, it makes it a lot easier because it becomes more of a natural progression. So I just wanted to be a really good engineer, a really good senior engineer, a really good team lead, and then things start to open up, and your name's mentioned in opportunities rather than having to find, but make them as well. There was no role in research and development. I just went away and localized the software, and went, okay, well, better give Keith this job. I'd like to think that anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, and typically developers tend to go down two routes when they progress. So they either go down and stay on the technical route, or they go down the managerial route as well.
Yes.
But from listening to yourself, you didn't maybe have, or there came a point where actually your sort of motivations or your ideas changed with that. Starting off, did you ever think that you may manage people, or was there something inside you that wanted to do that, or did that just happen as you faced these challenges in the middle of the career?
Absolutely not. It terrified. The thought of having to be a team lead or manage somebody terrified me when I started. And unfortunately, I'm not the most technical, and I will be very, very honest about that. I'm a problem solver, so I can learn. I learn very, very quickly. I learn new things, and that's allowed me to get to where I am. But genuinely, the thought terrified me. How can you possibly stand up in front of? How can you have an honest conversation with somebody? There is two routes, and I went the servant leader route, servant leadership route with Scrum Master, and just thought, okay, and like I mentioned, once I made that conscious decision to say it was more about other people than it was about me, then I could put any insecurities or anything aside all of those years ago to go, okay, it's not about me, it's about what we can do together. And that's quite empowering to be able to do that.
Great. And what I'll do is I'll read it and then but no, it's been great so far. Thanks, Keith. That's great. Yeah. So I want to touch on working on teams. So how do you go about fostering positive relationships and building your teams?
So what I'll try not to cover is what we hear and try and give a slightly different perspective. So we have things like psychological safety, we have trust, and for me, building a team, in engagement for an individual or within a team is about three things. It's the where, which is, you know, a safe environment, an environment to thrive in. The why, which is where people like myself come in to help make it very clear why we're doing the work. And this is where, you know, I would have to have the conversations just to understand, you know, why is this valuable? Because it at the differing levels, we don't see the full picture. And the third part is the how. So you know, how the processes that we use, the tools that we use. Is it you know, I was going to say exciting. It's, you know, for some it might be exciting. You know, is this technology that, you know, you really want to learn? It's how we actually do the work. So because it's such a wide-ranging topic, so those are the three areas. I just want to bring it back to, for me, which is the foundational part of that. And it's even before psychological safety, and it's before trust. It's how you build that trust. And one of the things that I've used very successfully is a process of self-reflection for the individuals. So as an engineering manager, as a team lead, one of the most important things is to really understand the motivation behind your team members. Now, asking the question of as an individual team member gets them to think about, okay, what is it that's important to me? And there was a gent called Stephen Sampson Jones, who's the visual facilitator. You need to check him out on LinkedIn. But he had a concept of manual of me. And what that is, if you think about it, if first and foremost, the manual of me is around, you know, my preferences for communication, my working hours, all of this stuff that is super useful, not only for you to get out there, you need to be comfortable to be able to share this, but where the value is actually being able to share that with your teammate to your left, your teammate to your right. Because even more so in a virtual environment, we can work with people and we really do not know anything about them. And I've worked with people that I didn't know. You have to be intentful, and it just is a way of individuals putting out there, you know how you would engage them, the kind of work that, you know, is important to them. So it allows the team to start to understand a bit about the people that they work with. But ultimately, can you think of what that would foster?
Yeah, like that sounds great, because everybody would get to know the team a lot better, maybe a little bit about what their motivations are potentially as well when it comes to, you're talking about, like, you know, what communication works best for them, what hours they work, just having a bit of understanding of when they're available, but also getting to know them a bit deeper as well.
Yeah, trust as well. You know, when you know, it's human nature. When you know more about somebody and how they work, and you know, not, you know, understanding, you know, some of how, you know, whether they're not available, it just builds trust, which is the fundamental thing to building teams. We need to build trust, but that's not, obviously, as a team leader or a manager, you want teams and individuals to trust you, and that's a whole different topic, because what you want is, you know, I'll be very clear. What you want to do is create an environment where people are more comfortable, you know, where then you're never going to be, you know, completely comfortable, but to say, well, actually, I don't agree with that, or I need some help, or there's a risk here. And that's what you build a trust. But if you're building a team, you need the team members to trust each other, because there's nothing more important than the ability to deal with issues or problems, whether it be delivery or disagreements with the team, at the level where it exists. Because if it comes to a team lead or it comes to myself, you're going backwards and forwards. Now, let's be clear, it's not easy to do this, but this is where team trust comes in. And, you know, we talk about next level. Once you have an idea of, you know, how each individual works, collectively you feel more comfortable to come together and you know, describe how as a team you want to be known. And this is where team charters come in, and which are super helpful in terms of, you know, ultimately allowing the team members, importantly, to hold each other to account. So this is how we operate as a team. This is how we want to be known as. So when it's not happening, you know, it's easier for a lead or anybody on the team, which is importantly, to go, remember, this is what we stand for. This is what we want to be seen. So people in another part of the organization, sales or support or anybody else that we talk to, do you think that right now, given the behaviors or actions that we've just exhibited, reaches, you know, it really lives up to what we want to be known as? And if it's no, that's that comfortable. And that allows, you know, that's foundational to build the why and then the work on top. But if you haven't got that, I think they're all equally as important. But if you haven't got the where, the ability to the environment to thrive, it makes it a lot more difficult to add on, you know, work and stuff like that, because you're always jarring at that level.
Yeah. This manual of me, is this something that they'll potentially share with you first, so you've got a good overview of it as a manager, and then it's something you would encourage to share with the rest of the team? How would you sort of, you know, recommend doing this?
So this is one thing as a team lead or an engineering manager we could do. We start by doing the manual of me. So this is the one thing that I can do and do, you know, apart from setting expectations, which are incredibly important for building any team. If you don't know what you can expect from me or what's expected of you, we can go off in completely different directions. But modeling the behaviors or that are useful or beneficial for building teams and in creating this environment is important. So, for example, when I joined AO, I created a manual of me. So it was my introduction into my development senior team and into the organisation to go, okay, this is Keith. I work 8 till 4:30. 4 o'clock I go and pick up my daughter. So it's a non-negotiable on a Friday, for example. You know, contact me by, you know, a call, more face-to-face is what I value. These are things that get me up and get me going and allow me to do my best work. And then I shared that with, obviously, the development senior team. And in return, I invited them to do the same. So there was a template. You had, I think there was probably about 30 or 40 different questions so you can answer. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but you choose what you want and then you share it so I can find out more about them. And then we did it. I used that technique on when we set up the Human League. Again, it's a really good way to introduce yourself to the people that you work with, but more importantly, to the people that you support. So it's helpful for a manager, because I know that if everybody starts at 9 o'clock, I'm wasting my time if I'm setting up a meeting at 8:30 because I'm in at 8. But it's more for the team. But absolutely, as the lead or the manager, model those behaviours. Go first. You know, if there's stuff you want to share, is you know, make that first step, and people are more inclined to then go, okay, I'll go on that journey with you.
No, it's really interesting. I like that. I'm sure that, you know, some people will probably get some value in researching that, looking into that as well. So I wanted to touch on a little bit about developers that would work within your team. So how would you recommend somebody to sort of progress through their career? And have you had any experiences of any developers or anybody who's worked in your team where they've done really well? So almost like just giving some like career advice to developers coming up.
So I'll give my personal views, and then I'll, as you see, I'll share some of the one of the stories that I've seen. For me, if you can, work with as many people as you possibly can. So one thing I encourage any level of engineer to do is to look at your team, not just your team, but an adjacent team, and go, who out of all those people would you most like to be like? Who do you think is an incredible communicator? Who has the most amazing code, or who you just like the way that they operate? And then go and ask them for a little bit of their time. So one of the things, you know, I was fortunate enough to have is again, it's the people that you work with. You know, it's not impossible within a virtual environment. It's more intentful. You have to make the effort to go and speak and talk and arrange time. But that would be my first thing. So that's what I used to do. You know, I was sitting in an office and I would go, oh, I like what they're doing. I like how did you? It's general curiosity. How did you do that? How is that cool? Maybe I've developed a career on copy and paste, but it was just like, how did you do that? And you work with it. So that would be my first thing is have a look around you and align yourself with those people that are doing. Success leaves clues, and those people that are getting on are those people that are seem to be getting the promotions or getting the opportunities. What are they doing? What are the behavior? More importantly, what are the behaviors that they're exhibiting? Just watch and go and ask them. It's best, genuinely, it's the best feeling in the world. Somebody comes up to you and goes, love what you're doing. Could I get half an hour of your time? Absolutely. Of course. And that might, you know, you could see that as maybe as a mentor-mentee relationship. So that's important, and I think that will set a lot of people on a right path. Work with those black belts, as it were, but also be a good training partner, and I think that's the analogy. So question, don't try things, and this leads on to the other thing, which I think is important. Just try things. The more things you try, the more things you get wrong, the more things you'll learn. And it's easier said than done, and it's easier with time. You know, when you are working with good people, you can't, and we talk about the environment to be able to learn as quickly as possible. So again, I'll come back to it. While you've got the energy and the time, do as much as you can. It will not be wasted time. It will not be wasted effort, because you will learn so much about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And genuinely, actually, one other thing as well, and I think this is just probably it's as important. Don't be afraid of a challenge. Do not shy away if you can help it, from the things that scare you, because you will learn the more. If they don't go to plan, you will learn more than if they did. And that will accelerate your learning, your understanding, what you like, what you don't like, your values, quicker than anything else. And I think that's where I've been fortunate, because I'm not the most technical. I've learned by doing and working with good people, but just keep going. And the example is very much that. There was a young graduate that joined and it stands out. When I was on Sage, he joined one of the teams on Sage 50 accounts. The speed and the pace and the willingness and just the graft that this gent put in, just blew me away. And he rapidly, gained the visibility and the respect of the other members of the team. He actually came in on a placement, went back to university, and then came back. We just needed to have him on the team. And again, this is one thing that new engineers can bring, and this is where it's a whole other topic about diversity and new ideas. It's one of the best things ever, because it really keeps everybody else on their toes. And you kind of buy that sort of stuff. Well, you can offer them a job, as it were. But yeah, and that might be contrary to what There's a million resources that you can go and read. There's books. There's you. Just do stuff, but do it with good people, and that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And over time, and this is just for completeness, over time, move from you will naturally get to a point where it's less about what you do, it's more about taking people on a journey, and that's when you move into more senior behaviours. And again, that accelerates that learning, because you go, okay, this is not about me, it's about other people, and that's a really difficult transition for a lot of people as well.
So you give some good advice there about what developers can do working within a business, how they can progress their career. Now you've been a hiring manager, you've sat in interviews. What would you feel is the best way a developer can relay that to you as a prospective hirer?
So it depends. As we know, for a junior, for example, and this is one thing that a lot of people forget. They won't necessarily have that experience. Apprenticeships or graduates. You've done certain things within. Certainly for apprenticeships, you might not actually be in the technology field. So it is very much about behaviours. So do not, and this is one thing, when I was at Accenture, I was interviewing for, obviously, actually it was graduates, but similarly, they were graduating from non-technical degrees. It's really just about the behaviours, about how they're learning, about their passion for technology, whilst they might not have been doing that. So anything that you can articulate with regards to how you learn, any resources that you have read, you can share. Similarly, just it's quite difficult that somebody, you can see my hands going. When I'm passionate about something, my eyes light up. Your voice changes, and you can. If somebody just isn't really there, But yeah, at that level, it's about your desire to learn. And if you can demonstrate that, and it could be anything, for me, it could be anything. I've learned about woodworking, for example, or whatever. Strange analogy. However, it's not about the thing. It's about the putting in the effort to learn. Depending on if you go for a senior, what I would be expecting is it's less about me. It's more about what we did or what I led on, or but that comes from just understanding that's somewhat your role. So it's about what you've created for the benefit of others. It could be governance, it could be standards, it could be a security chairman, or whatever it might be. That's what I look for. So yes, in the interviews that I've had, fortunately, for the people that have been there, I've had technical people with myself, because I'm not the most technical. I can spot somebody who's making stuff up. Let's be really, really clear, first and foremost. So you can't pull the wool over my eyes, even though but I know enough, shall we say. But pitch at, think about, and this is about understanding the role that you're going for, what's expected within that role. Ask those questions within that interview, but assume if you're going for a senior level role, it's about doing. It's not about observing and learning, it's about leading. And that's what, it should be about. Technical skills, you'll have acquired them over time. It's what you do to then apply those skills and make the capability of a team or an organisation just a better place, and create and again help create that environment. So yeah.
And I just wanted to touch on, so when you started your career, you mentioned that you were doing a telephone customer service type of role where
Yes.
you're working with customers. Do you feel it would be beneficial for developers to do that at the beginning of the career, where either if they're studying for a degree, they're not doing a degree, they're using a different route to get into software engineering, because there's quite a lot of different routes that you can take now. Would you feel it would be beneficial to someone to do customer service so they can really understand the pain of customers? And do you feel that could then help them in further along in their career?
Absolutely. I think, anything that puts you in the position to understand more about people, about how things can impact people, is incredibly valuable. So these are the transferable skills we talk about. Super useful for any field. The ability to talk to somebody, to empathise, to de-escalate are super helpful in any environment, because you will find yourself in those positions within an engineering team. As you become senior or a team lead, it's about, okay, there's no sides here. We're all, but I worked on the telephone, and I was going to say it would be 50-50, but you're getting people that are payroll calls where the people that are frantic. Think of it from their point of view. They need to get this payroll out. Something's not working, something's not going wrong, and there's to understand it from their point of view, that if they don't get this done within the next half an hour, there's 50 people not going to get paid, so they're going to get it in the neck, for want of a better word. Really allows you to build up those skills. I think retail, not necessarily, and I've never, have I worked in retail? No, I've worked in a social club collecting glasses, but I've never, again, just different, work with people, the ability to have a conversation with somebody, the ability to empathise is never lost. So yes, you know, do hard things, and they are hard jobs. I would struggle now, but I know that I absolutely appreciate the value of those people that do those roles, because they are customer facing, and it'll set you up, because you should never really lose that understanding, which I haven't. Is that it's not just a bit of code that's been uploaded to a repository. It's actually, there's a customer, or there's 250,000 people are going to get this product, or millions are going to get this product once you deploy it live. And when it goes wrong, it melts down. But when it goes right, everybody goes, yeah. We forget that disconnection. So yes, very long-winded to say yes.
Yeah.
Anything that you can work with people would be massively valuable.
Brilliant. And I know you touched on a woodwork analogy earlier, so I know you've been keeping yourself busy
Yes.
as you're just in the middle of changing jobs. So I guess what could you talk a little bit about that in terms of what you've been doing volunteering, and what your sort of plans are for the future as well?
Absolutely, thank you. So yes, an absolute saviour. I have been fortunate enough to find a volunteer role where I have volunteer 3 days a week. Really good, I like your style, given the fact that we talk about working with people. So I volunteer within, it's called the Barn. It's actually a fully functional woodworking setup at a local community hub next to where I grew up and where I live now. And it supports sort of adults and children, but I deal with the adults that have either physical or learning difficulties. And it's amazing. I go in, and we talk about building a team. I have to build trust with not only the instructor, so this, it's that conversation, but we are, we're building planters for some of the obviously the gents there for Easter. We've built, it was, I can't think of the word, but it's a bench to commemorate, unfortunately, a tragic event, a loss of a young child's life within the community as well. So, but this is, again, you need to leave your ego at the door. This is not about me, and I'm confident that the instructor would, I can't just, and this is the good thing for me, and where it's allowed me just to keep going while I'm looking for a new job, is it's not about me. I can muck in and I can try these things, but it's just about that engagement with these, and the smiles and the laugh and the banter that we have. I know a lot of, some of them are incredible with music. We listen to the radio. There's dancing and stuff like that. It's a lot of work. I'm still picking bits of paint off myself on a daily basis. But I love it. But yeah, so that's, I'm using this is a way to give back. Selfishly, it allows me to do that, because I find that incredibly important. That's just part of who I am. Yes, while I look for my new role. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see where your career goes, Keith, and I'd strongly recommend any developers, any development managers, any Scrum Masters, anybody who manages people to connect with you, because you do some really interesting posts, some really hilarious posts as well. So you certainly keep me entertained, and certainly provide a lot of value as well. But yeah, really enjoyed having you today, Keith. I feel like there's some really good advice that you've given for managers, but not only managers, for people who are in their software career. So yeah, definitely we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.